told when I launched my very first greeting card assortment, I sold 0 cards for a long time. I almost gave up selling greeting cards for a while. Hi creative friends, I'm Cathy, a watercolor artist, and I own a product business, Easy Sunday Club. In our YouTube channel, we make practical business videos and tutorials for creatives who want to turn their daydream into reality. Now, I spent a lot of time and thought into making this video because it can be difficult to reflect on our own mistakes. Entrepreneurship is hard. And making a business out of your own creativity is a road with many ups and downs. I hope that by sharing my mistakes, it will prevent you from making some of these mistakes, or at least make you think twice about some of these decisions. Now let's get to it, and make sure you listen to the last one because that's a touchy one. So my first mistake is that I had shiny object syndrome. Now, you probably can relate to this, but as creatives, we have a lot of ideas in our head every day and feel like there's not enough time to execute all of them. In the first 2 years of my business, when I was still relatively new to watercolor, I would chase down every single rabbit hole when an idea sounded interesting in my head or had seen someone else do it. For example, instead of focusing on making the next sale or building a collection, I thought it would be fun to make a custom do not bend stamp for my packaging. So I ended up spending a couple of days tinkering and making that and ordering it online and so on. Or that one time I thought that it would be cool to sell wallpaper, so I ended up researching on where to print wallpaper online, and I ended up spending several weeks coming up with designs to upload to Spoonflower. To this day, I made $3 on that website from commission that I can't even withdraw because there's a minimum. That's just 2 examples. I have so many more where that came from, but you get the idea. Without thinking about how these choices add to my overall product offering or what value I would be creating for this business, I spent way too much time on these side projects. As a result, it most likely slowed down my growth. To be fair, I was relatively new as an artist and a small business owner. I really didn't know what I was doing. So part of me believes that this was a rite of passage for all artists who are making it on their own. However, I do think that we need to rein in that shiny object syndrome sooner than later. Even if you don't have a clear idea of which direction you want to take it, at least commit to a niche for a period of time before jumping into the next thing. Also, to be realistic, I know this about myself, and I know I still need time to explore these ideas. I can't just squash it all together. This is why I've started scheduling in 2 days a month to explore these curiosities. This gives me the permission to kind of detour a little bit from my business as usual, but also set boundaries so that I know when to nip it in the bud. I'm also more disciplined now, and that discipline takes practice. But if I can do it, so can you. The second mistake I made was that I was relying on one platform for marketing and audience building, specifically Instagram. Because my art journey started on Instagram, I by default stayed on there and spent most of my time sharing my work without really zooming out to see the bigger picture. I didn't start an email list till the end of second year, and I thought that merely posting my work online equates to marketing. I also thought that the number of likes on Instagram posts was predictive of how well that something would sell. Oh, the naivete. As much as the thought nagged me from time to time, I didn't want to acknowledge that there were other ways to market my business much more effectively. I also was not as strategic with how I posted on Instagram. Most of the time, I was too precious with what I posted. I was overthinking about my captions, and my shiny object syndrome was on display, which meant I was posting a bunch of incohesive content. So if I were to start over now, I would definitely be more efficient and diversify my efforts over at least 2 platforms. I would try to create content that I could repurpose and share over these different platforms, which is what I'm doing right now. Yes, it's a lot of work, and yes, we still need time to create art, but it's doable if you set your priorities. The third mistake I made kind of piggybacks off the last one, which is not focusing on SEO, search engine optimization. Instead of spending so much time coming up with captions for posts that only get people's attention for 2 days max. I could have spent that time creating content that were longer lasting and more searchable. When I did a deep dive on analytics for my website, easysundayclub.com recently, I found out that almost a third of my traffic last year came from Google. Google, not any social media network. I also generated more sales from Google than Instagram, even though I treated it like an afterthought. I can only imagine what difference it would have made had I been more intentional about creating content that would help make my website more discoverable and searchable. This year, I'm really going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on creating content that's going to make my work more searchable on platforms like Google, YouTube, and Pinterest. And I look forward to sharing what works or doesn't work with you. The fourth mistake I made in the earlier days of my business is not doing proper market research, not understanding what my customer wanted. You might have found me on YouTube through one of my greeting card videos, but truth be told, when I launched my very first greeting card assortment, I sold 0 cards for a long time. I almost gave up selling greeting cards for a while. I merely took some of my art prints that were popular and turned them into greeting cards. Now, your customer might have different preferences, but what I learned was that for my customers, putting pretty art on blank cards just wasn't enough. When it comes to cards, whether it's a piece of art or text or both, they are looking for meaning, humor, or some kind of symbolism to convey their thoughts in a creative way. I also made the same mistake with my art prints, where I painted certain animals that sounded fascinating to me at the time, and then I was surprised that no one bought it. This may be an obvious reason, but I learned that what I liked at the moment doesn't always align with what my ideal customer likes. The sweet spot is to find those things that align with our own interests, but are also what our customers are willing to pay for. The keywords is willing to pay for, not just things that they're willing to hit the like button on a post. As artists, we want to create things that personally speak to us, not just for the sake of maximizing sales. The more we can connect to our own art, the easier it will be to sell them and tell stories about them. Finding that balance is definitely a challenge, and it's an art form in itself. It requires constantly paying attention to what's out there, to what's popular, but also checking in with ourselves on whether it's something that you personally connect with. Now, on to the last mistake, and perhaps the most costly, which is that I was looking for the solution to all my business problems through paid courses and coaching programs. I know I'm not alone in feeling this way, but in the first couple of years of my business, I felt alone. Alone because I was literally on my own to make all the decisions, and because I had never done this before. So whenever there's a course that promised to triple my traffic in 2 months or come up with these magical marketing formulas to gain sales, I just got sucked in. Some of those course creators have amazing pre-launch sequences and marketing campaigns, and they use all the right words and relate it to all of our struggles. But once I'm in, the reality almost never met my expectations. I thought I could pay my way out of this feeling of isolation, but I was investing my time in the wrong people. Truth is, learning is good, but doing is better. I think there's a risk to making an excuse that we're making progress in our business by taking these courses, when really we should be out there doing and trying and failing and trying again. I will say this though, not all courses are bad. There are great ones, but those are farther and fewer in between. I also believe in just-in-time learning, which means only learning about the things that you're struggling with at the time and giving it time to breathe and giving yourself time to try out different solutions. I would also highly recommend that you find former students to get real feedback in private, not just the testimonials that you see on those sales pages from the course creators. Another way to help legitimize those material is to see that they've actually practiced what they preach and that their advice is current and relevant to the current stage of your business. If you're trying to learn diving, you wouldn't take diving lessons from someone who only read books about diving, right? Nowadays, the only way I would pay for a course or coaching program is if they've proven their success in the thing I'm working towards. or they've given so much free content away that I'm happy to compensate them for the value that I've already received. Also, I've learned a lot from other successful entrepreneurs out there who give free advice with no strings attached because they're already successful doing the things they're giving advice about. I hope you enjoyed this video and let me know in the comments which one spoke to you the most. And remember, you don't have to have everything figured out, you just have to take the next step. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.